Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 683. My opponent kicked off with d4. I went with knight f6, trying to get some kind of a Nimzo Indian. He goes knight f3, which often rules that out, but there's still possibilities if he plays c4 here. But he goes with bishop f4, so now we're in something else. This is most like a London system, so that's what I called it. Although he doesn't play c3 later, he plays c4 after I've committed to d5. It looks like I could still try something like c5 here. That's interesting. Okay, but I played d5, and this seems to be okay, and then I went with c5. So I'm doing all right so far, and then he played this very rare move, c4. And I went bishop d6, and we're just out of the opening book. I got into kind of an uncomfortable position out of the opening, so I just wanted to look at this with the chess engine a little bit and the opening book, and it likes taking immediately. C takes d4, e takes d4, and then I'm not going to be the one that ends up with the isolated queen's pawn. So then I could play bishop d6 here if I wanted to. The engine actually doesn't particularly care for this idea of bishop d6, but this leaves black with a decent position anyway. And I find this bishop kind of annoying. There's always these threats of that bishop combined with this knight coming in here and ganging up on the c7 square. So I always try to trade that bishop off, and it usually leads to a decent game for black. Anyway, in the game I went, so that's how I would play next time. Take first and then bring the bishop out. Here I went bishop d6 immediately, and he just took, and the chess engine approves of this from white's point of view. Thinks white is doing good here. So he takes again. Let's see, played c takes d5. Take back with the e pawn because I don't want to give up the central pawn. If I take back with the knight, he can push his pawns forward and kick that knight around. So this is the best way, but it's just a slightly worse position for black than what I could have gotten in the other line. And here, the chess engine actually recommends playing c4, avoiding the isolated queen's pawn by committing to this locked up structure. It's a bit fragile, actually. After you've played c4, white always has ideas to undermine with e4. But apparently it's an okay position for black. So when I just continue with knight c6 here, this allows him to get that isolated queen's pawn position. He's threatening to take, and if I take back, he might get some cute discoveries with the knight. Although I didn't see anything great there, but either way, I'm going to end up with an isolated queen's pawn because he takes back with a knight when I take. So this is the position I ended up with out of the opening. And as I was saying during the game, I think white's a little bit better here, and the chess engine thinks that as well. Let's see, he castled. I went a6 to keep his knight from hopping into b4. He goes bishop f3. All this seems to be okay for both sides. But like I said, white is keeping that edge. Queen d2, rook f d8, goes rook f d1, and queen e7. Oh, I went queen e7 to get off of this file here and protect the pawn with my rook without the queen being in the way. It's trying to eliminate some ideas of him pushing this pawn forward at an awkward time. Just goes with a3 here. And now I play knight e4, which is kind of a radical solution to my problems. It actually is a pawn sacrifice, although he didn't take me up on it. But yeah, I just didn't want to be in this passive position defending this pawn. It looks like I could never get it going. But the chess engine points out knight e5 here as a way to play. I'm kicking that bishop around, and the knight can come in here to this square as well. So so there are other ways to play that are probably better, but better than what I played. But white still keeps an edge. And there's no reason after knight takes e4 for white not to grab that pawn. There's no immediate threat along the d file. So, it just takes a little bit of calculation to make sure nothing terrible is going to happen. And then you realize you can just grab that. And let's see, I can get a little something going here with bishop to b3. I don't know if I would have played this because I was planning just to take the knight there. But that kind of forces his pieces in a little more of an awkward position, and then take the knight. And so I've given up a pawn, but now he's got the isolated pawn. It is a passed pawn, so I have to be careful to pile up on it before it gets too far advanced and before you get into the endgame when it becomes a real strength. But for the moment, at least, I can get some initiative by ganging up on that pawn, and so seems like this is okay for black. But white, white is still has the advantage having the extra pawn. So white's playing for the win, and black is playing to hold at this point. But really, that's what white should go for. I mean, after the move he played, let's see, I went knight e4, and he just moved his queen. And after this, actually, black is better. So all of a sudden, there's been a change of the atmosphere here. So, and the way I played it is correct. I just need to trade off these knights here. I took on d4 first, and then I took on. Oh, that's right. He took with the rook. I was a little bit surprised. If he takes with a pawn, it heals that isolated pawn, and I think I'm okay. Although I still have this kind of, stuck bishop there, stuck behind the pawn. So even that would probably be okay for white. But then taking this guy off, he took with the rook. And this is what I was going for, was this position where he's got the weaknesses, and I even get to grab a pawn here. Although I shouldn't really be able to keep that pawn. White has a tactic here to get the pawn back. So if you want to put on your thinking cap, what is the best move for white here? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away, so pause the video if you want some time to think about it. The answer is pawn to c4. It just takes advantage of this pin. My rook is loose back here on the back rank. In fact, it goes with mate. So this pawn is stuck. I can't move it. And he can just pile up on this pawn and win it. And, well, then it would be a game. Black is still better because of these connected passed pawns on the outside. I have a winning end game here. I just need to kind of trade things off. But these central pawns would be good for white as well. And there's still a lot of force on the board. We're a long way from the end game. So just a slight edge for black at that point. So the second move he plays, he just played queen d3 kind of reflexively. He played too fast all the way through this game. And now he's just lost. So he's just a pawn or two down. And let's see, well, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's only one pawn down. But yeah, these outside pass pawns are very dangerous. So yeah, this is winning for black already, and I play the rest of this game pretty well. So I come in with the check, and this forces him to block. He tries to keep the material on, so he blocks with the bishop. And then I bring my rook over to the c file. Having distracted the bishop, now I can gang up on the c pawn. The point of distracting the bishop was so that my d pawn here is adequately defended. And he actually can't save this pawn, and this c4 push doesn't work. It didn't make things any worse. He was losing that pawn anyway, but he might have thought there's some tactic there based on my weak back rank. But I just have to be careful about the order in which I take things here. And if he keeps taking, now it's safe for me to take with the pawn. So he's down 2 pawns at this point. So he dropped his queen back to d2. I make a little lift for my king so I don't get mated on the back rank. And, well, we can go forward through the rest of this. I think I just keep that edge here. And there's not a whole lot that white can do about it. I have enough, I have 2 pieces here to defend that pawn, so he can't really gang up on it. Just have to be, he can trade it off. And, yeah, this was the one interesting point, was he tried to go for some drawing idea with the sacrifice of the bishop on g6. So I did have to be careful at this point, but queen e5 is an adequate defense here. So the queen is looking at some squares here and also is prepared to interpose on g7 if necessary. So he took, also the other point about that move with the queen is defending all these potentially loose pieces and pawns. And so after he sacrifices, he can get some checks here, but he can't round up any material because it's all defended. And my king can walk away from the checks. And with the queen and the bishop over here, his queen is limited from where it can deliver these checks. So it's not too hard for me to walk away from the checks. And he keeps checking. Let's see, I just walk over here, and let's see, is there no, he could have given one more check here, but I don't think that leads anywhere. Anyway, he finally stops with the checks. He comes down here to d8, maybe to try and check from behind, also putting a little pressure on this pawn. But now I have a winning attack with my pieces, so I check his king. He wants to avoid the light square because otherwise my bishop is going to come in and I will mate him that way. So he goes here, but that leaves the f-pawn undefended. And then when he runs back this way, which is the only move, this check forces the loss of the queen. So because the king has no move, so he has to give up the queen to save his king. So he resigned at this point. Anyway, a nice finish to this game that my opponent played too fast. So I think that's the lesson. Even a strong player can make mistakes if they don't bother to pause and calculate occasionally. So anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.